In this country, I cannot use pepper spray. But then again, I cannot go report to the police because they didn't physically put me in their car yet.
The way society is right now, it silences the victims.
I'm more scared of being catcalled by a black guy just because I'm black and they see me as an easy target. They're like, oh, my sister, my sister. We're brothers and sisters. We should all love each other.
Abuse and harassment should never be excused. Yeah. People do mistake, but harassing somebody, it's a choice.
It happens no matter what you are wearing.
Exactly.
Because it's not what you're wearing, it's the person. Because if a person is respectful, you could be naked and they will still not touch you. What in the actual hell?
Welcome to the SHE-Word, where we have conversations that women rarely have but really should. My name is Sasha. I am your host for this edition of the SHE-Word, the Young Women's Edition, where we are having conversations which are more tailored towards a younger demographic of women. I would like to remind you to follow and subscribe to our channels. You can follow on Spotify and Instagram. You can subscribe on Patreon. And when you do that, you are supporting the Richmond Foundation, as 50% of our proceedings go towards the foundation so they can offer free therapy for women who are struggling to access it. Now, today's show is Young Women and Harassment. And while I'm aware this show won't be an easy one, it is a conversation that definitely needs to be had between young women. A recent experience I had with street harassment actually prompted me to plan this show. I had addressed what had just happened on my social media platform, and the reaction I received from other women was massive. All of them telling me that they've all experienced similar experiences. And so I decided that this topic deserves to have a spot on season 2. I want to start off with some statistics to better paint the picture in numbers. An average of around 41% of women across all European Union states have experienced some form of harassment. In the UK, more than 2/3 of women aged 16 to 34 years reported experiencing catcalling in the last 12 months. This was the highest rate among all ages and sex groups. Disabled adults were more likely to have experienced being insulted or shouted at by a stranger in public. Globally, 68% of women have experienced harassment, reported being catcalled multiple times. Specifically, 77% of women under the age of 34 have faced street harassment. It's also noted that a significant proportion of women are likely to take a safer but longer route to avoid street harassment. And finally, research collected by Cornell University found that 84% of females had been catcalled by the time they reached the age of 17. So, with these numbers in mind, let's get straight into our conversation. Today, I am joined by 3 women who I've already touched upon the topic of harassment with. We've all experienced it to some degree or another, or have come close to others who have, and it's time that these realities come to life. I am here with Maria Luisa, who is a criminologist and volunteers with MOAS Malta, which is an international humanitarian organization founded in 2013. Hello, Maria.
Hi, Sasha. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for being here today. Marta Attard, who is a freelance model, content creator, and hairstylist, who had reached out to me after I had spoken about my recent experience. Hello, Marta.
Hey, nice to meet you, Sasha.
Nice to meet you as well. And finally, Antonella Bugeja, who has actually already been on the SHE-Word twice, on the main edition of the show. She is a medical student focusing on women's health in particular. Hello, Antonella.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Yes, it's nice to have you on the other side of the table now. So, ladies, a big thank you all for joining me on this show. And now that I've introduced you, I'd like you to take a moment to introduce yourselves, perhaps mention something which I haven't. Maria, you want to start us off?
So, like I said, thank you so much for bringing us all together here to share our experience. I think it's very important. My name is Maria Luisa. I am 27. I am a criminologist who has also worked since 18 in the humanitarian sector. And unfortunately, I did and I do experience harassment, and this is why we have also connected. And I am looking forward to raise awareness because it's very, very important. And hopefully, this conversation will make other women more comfortable with the fact that, of course, it's not okay to be harassed, but it's okay to speak up about it. And there is nothing to feel uncomfortable or shy or, afraid of. And yeah, thank you, and Trudy, for letting us, spread awareness in regards to this matter.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Like, as you said, these things shouldn't be normalized in the first place. And by us speaking about them and addressing them, that's exactly how we fight that. So thank you. Antonella?
So, hi, I'm Antonella. So, I'm a medical student. I've also just finished my master's in neuroscience, and my main kind of passions in life are focusing on mental health and sexual health. And things like harassment kind of include a mix of both as well. Obviously, harassment affects kind of mental state quite a lot. And as you guys have been saying as well, it's important to talk about this because unfortunately, things like harassment and sexual assault and things like this, they are happening more and more. And yet it's like they are normalized, yet talking about it is not, which is just a whole kind of contradiction, like if it's happening, at least empower people enough to be able to talk about their experiences. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to join you amazing ladies and talk about it and hopefully help other people in, be able to relate and to feel comfortable to talk about it as well.
Very, very well said. And I'd like to make it clear, like the starting point for the show is street harassment. But of course, we will be touching upon all the forms of harassment that might come up,
Yeah.
Hello, Martha.
Hi, nice to meet you, Sasha. So she said, I'm Martha. I'm 20 years old, originally Ethiopian, but I was raised here in Malta. I till this day, I don't think I felt much comfortable. I haven't had a group of girls together that all feel the same way. I've tried to repress, if that makes sense. That I've tried to Lemar, that's not actually how it is. It's in your mind. Shh. It's very relieving to know that there are other girls. I knew that there were other girls, but not that all think it's very much needed that we talk about it. So I'm very happy to be here and to talk about my experiences in hopes to make others feel like the other girl said, like it's okay to talk up. Auntie, please do. So things that you went through don't happen to someone else.
Yes,
hopefully.
yes, I agree. So thank you, all of you, for being here once again. So I would like to start us off. I want to ask you to share an experience that you've had with harassment, so be it with catcalling, and maybe catcalling became something more serious, or maybe workplace harassment, whatever, obviously, whatever you feel comfortable to speak about. Whoever wants to go first.
I could go first.
Martha, yes, go for it.
I've had my fair share of catcalling to the point where, like a lot of other girls, they end up just tuning it out. AirPods, fuck it, don't listen to what they say. Amisha, you don't want to come off as that girl with the attitude that talks back to the man that shouted all the way from his car to get your attention. But I think being dark-skinned in a predominantly white country, I know that I get comments in a different way, same intention, tipo same, oh my god, it's a woman, let me get her attention. But at the same time, there's a different twist to it. They see it's like a fetish call. I don't want to put it like that straight off the bat. It's not even been 5 minutes that we've been recording.
It's fine.
But it's like, I don't know how to put it. So I used to be in a workplace which I appreciated this one person's contribution to how I work. I have ADHD. Not many people understand how I work, how I exceed at many things, but then there are certain things which you need to tell me every day because it's not that I forget, just not my fault. And he understood this, he played along to this to the point where he got me working at my best, where if I was working with this person, I was working very well at my best. So I used to disregard the little things on the side. I used to like comments about how like my uniform perfectly fits you can see my curves, my ass looks great in it. Oh, why aren't I used to say, Mar, you're don't be full of yourself. He doesn't mean it in that way. Not everything is about you. Just keep working and you got this. There was a time though where an intern she was crying at a staff party, and when she told us why, I was like, shit, I'm not alone. This is not something that's only happening to me. I feel validated. My feelings feel validated. So we ended up finding out there were many more girls that had gone through a similar experience. It was a supervisor at the time that had given us the push because, yes, although I felt like, oh, there is someone else that went through this, I still felt a certain kind of anxiety like, yes, he will lose his job and that will be because of me. People that liked him in the hot, much liked him, but people that liked him, they'll look at me wrong, they'll look at me different because I will speak about this.
And unfortunately, we're conditioned to feel like that, you know?
Then like when we did end up speaking about it, yes, the other girls did speak up, but HR said, oh no, but it seemed like you liked the attention. And it's I'm not talking about subtle things. I'm talking in front of guests, and
Unacceptable.
Totally.
since I appreciated how he knew how I worked, I shouldn't say anything because he is making exceptions to make me work better, if that makes sense. He's going above and beyond, so why am I going to literally make him lose his job? After 3 years there, I don't know what to say. It was relieving that he did lose his job there, so it wouldn't happen to many other girls. But after we had spoken up, I felt like shit. Sorry for the word, but I was like, I feel like everyone's giving me the eye, blah blah blah. But then certain people that were in my department were like, no, Mar, you did the right thing. And recently, I found out that he moved to another job, but he's still doing the same thing to different girls, which kills me because I was like, when HR told me my options, we can take legal action or we can just leave it here.
Yeah, like stay silent.
The way I felt that the way that they put, we can take this officially, it was the way they put it was intimidating.
It was
In a
almost like it
sense,
was an inconvenience, right?
it's like, it will be a long process, but we'll be there for you. You don't say that.
It's always a victim shaming, though, that
Yeah.
that gets to, to even what happened to Mar. It's always like, let's not address the problem. Let's make the person who is
Go.
raising up the problem. And it's not that, even the lack of taking actions when these things happen and blaming the victim, that causes the individual. For example, I'm so sorry you had to go through this, but I'm sure that this has caused you a lot of heartache and a lot of suppressing feelings that you shouldn't have been suppressed and suppressing.
I think a big problem with different types of harassment as well is the fact that many times, you, like the person who is experiencing it, tends to blame themselves when it's never their problem, but it's the way kind of society molds the situation and the responses. Like something that really sticks in my head is how sometimes one sentence that a person says in this situation will affect you for the rest of your life. Like you had your specific sentence that they told you that, and especially when it's coming from someone with authority and someone that is meant to be helping you. When, like, for me, there was a case when I was young where also there was kind of sexual harassment and stuff like that. And I won't go into too much detail about it, but an authoritative figure's response when this situation kind of came out was that, oh, but that was the person's way of showing love to you.
Oh, yes,
And
I've been familiar with that as well.
like,
That's terrible. There's
you-
no excuse.
You don't tell that to a 14-year-old girl
That's
about the perpetrator, like, because to me that was okay, so love is that. Love is you feeling uncomfortable around someone, because like that's what they called love, and that's how I felt uncomfortable because I didn't want that touch. So it, like, these sentences, this is why education is so important to kids to understand kind of situations, but also to professionals, because police, teachers, these are, even doctors, these are the people that are going to be dealing with victims, that are going to be dealing firsthand with a person who has been harassed in some way. And okay, you can affect anyone, like, and sometimes it, it's difficult to know the right thing to say, but at least know the wrong things to say and avoid that, and validate the experiences. I know sometimes legalities are a bit difficult, but at least validate someone's experience. Don't just say you like the attention or this was love, or just say what happened wasn't your fault and it was not good and I'm sorry. And maybe even refer, like, if you cannot help this person psychologically, refer to therapies. There's Victim Support Malta. There are options. Like, there are ways to handle it in a
Instead of
nice.
sweeping it under the carpet, which is
Exactly.
usually what happens,
Yeah.
even here in Malta, in the workplace, in different spectrums. This happens because, we've been discussing, it can be the catcalling that can turn into stalking, that can turn into like violence, or it can be the abuse of power in the workplace, where you are being harassed because of your age, because of what you're wearing, and there is no excuse for harassment.
No.
And when somebody says no, it's please leave me alone. It's no. There is no going around it. When that attention is not reciprocated. And I go back to, schooling is really important, especially with kids. Making kids understand what is right and what is wrong in a young age avoids in the teen years having this mentality, which have all lived through it. Oh, boys will be boys, and this is just the way men are. But this narrative is not correct, because it also gives good men a bad reputation, because
Yeah.
not all boys are like this. Not all men are like this. Men are actually very respectful. Are those, I don't want to say bad eggs, but there are those who do not know how to carry themselves with respect and with boundaries, that are making a bad reputation for all the other men, which is also not fair.
Maria, we've discussed some of the things you've experienced, especially related to street harassment, together, which were quite shocking to say the least. And
Yeah.
as you just mentioned now, it is a clear example of how a form of harassment, which is often painted as harmless, can really, really become dangerous. And I was wondering if you would like to elaborate further on this.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons why I also wanted to come on this show is to advocate for this, because also sometimes we tend to say, oh, it's okay, it's just a cat call, it's just for guys in a car.
Yeah.
I've got my dog, he's a big dog, he'll protect me. But what is it when you don't have the big dog, you don't have your neighbors looking out for you, and you have those four guys in the car, not just cat calling you, but also stalking you with the car? It happens once, it happened twice, but then you start taking different roads, different things, but it shouldn't be like this. And also the lack of being able to protect myself. For example, in this country, I cannot use pepper spray, but then again, I cannot go report to the police because they didn't physically put me in their car yet. I don't want to wait to get hurt
Exactly.
in order. Now, I'm not saying I want to go and pepper
So
spray every man
important.
that looks at me. Absolutely not. It's not the point. A cordial look or a glance to another person, a compliment in the street, those are accepted. But it's the mannerism, and it's the aggressiveness sometimes that this cat calls and these individuals. Because for me, it didn't only happen with men. I also had this experience from women. And also, I think it's also strange as well when it's a woman being forcing herself upon you, because, it's like, oh, what do I do? I've told this person to stop, but they're not respecting my boundary. So yeah, it's a difficult one. And for me, it has, catcalling has nothing to do with, it's not really gender based, because I've had it for women and for men. But regardless of that, it's the most important thing for me to advocate is, first of all, letting kids know from a young age what's right and what's wrong. But also, like, as a country coming together to raise awareness and to find ways to protect the victims without shaming the victim, without blaming the victim, and with protocols with the government entities that you don't need to be kidnapped, hurt, or even traumatized in order to prevent this from being taken too far. Because all the time that I have tried to report inappropriate behavior, I have been told, oh, but you haven't been physically hurt. So therefore, I was left like, do I really have to be like shoved in a car, or does it something really bad has to happen to me? And it shouldn't be taken that far,
No,
There should
definitely.
be no.
If I may add, because I
Of course,
realized that
Marta.
what the experience I shared before wasn't exactly related to catcalling itself, but it was
No,
still a
no,
form of
but it
harassment.
was.
As another side of being a black girl, I with immigrants here in Malta, I'm more scared of being catcalled by a black guy just because I'm black and they see me as an easy target. They're like, "Oh, my sister, my sister." The like, yes, I get scared when like a white man fucking approaches me and I like they give you the eyes. Listen, I have good peripheral vision. I feel you coming. I feel you looking at me. Now I don't want to sound like, oh my god, everyone looks at me, but that's exactly the mentality we want to stop.
Yeah.
It's But when it's a black guy, I feel so much more vulnerable just because I'm black, they're black, we're brothers and sisters, we should all love each other. They are more determined to get my number, to get my attention, to get my Facebook. Oh, but if I can't get your number, Malam, we'll see you next time, and then after next time, I'll get your number. If it's there's scared when it comes to white, but when it comes to black, I fear. I don't want to say fear for my life in the sense that yeah, because black guys are all bad. No, genuinely not. But the ones that you see something else in their eyes, I just feel more scared, much more.
And you feel
And
like they have some kind of right to you just because
just because
you
I'm their
share
skin.
like a nationality
And then
or
everyone's
the
like, oh,
skin
but
color.
if I was white, you wouldn't be. It's like, yes, no, I wouldn't be. But at the same time, like, you're not making it easier for yourself to be accepted. They're like, oh, but why do you do like this to me? Oh, you're too good. Like, you're too Maltese for me now. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I have gotten so many, like, even waiting for the bus, even
Yes.
waiting. Listen, waiting for, and
Something as simple as that.
I don't drive yet. And by the way, people drive. I am not willing. I'm not ready to drive very much yet. So that means I still have to get the bus. But my mom always told me to afshel bombi at night. Don't you dare. اطلع البيت, and even if that means to wait for the next bus.
And this is what we mentioned before of actually taking a longer route so you can
Exactly.
protect yourself.
Yes. And even like, to be fair, the kind of a race card or different cards have been played. Like, I remember this one time I was on a bus and this guy started telling me like, oh, you're so pretty and whatever. And at a point, like, I was about to like kind of get up off the seat to walk away, and he just put his hand on my like thigh and was like, no, you're staying here. And he kept talking and he was like, it's because I'm black. And I was like, no, it's because you're like a middle-aged man that
You
just
could be
grabbed
green.
my leg. Like, as in, to me, because even in that moment, when this person says something like that, like, it kind of triggers something
Don't
else
play the
in-
race card when you know you're doing something wrong either way,
Exactly,
because
like-
then the race card won't work as well when you actually need it.
Exactly, like, because it's not, obviously, it is not okay to be racist. It's not okay to be homophobic. It's not okay to discriminate on any of these kind of bases, but it's not okay to use like being a minority as an excuse to do bad things. Like, that is, because even at that point in time, like, I felt really upset. I was like, I don't want him to think that though. Like, because then it starts kind of playing with you as well. And it gets to, again, this like victim shaming and victim blaming. Like, because you start thinking, then I
I should have
upset
done
him, or
something wrong. I
I
shouldn't have
should
upset
have
him. And this
done.
is exactly
yeah,
also where the perpetrator wants to put you in a
in a
place where they have that dominance
yeah.
and you are under their thumb. But then again, with race, I wanted to also bring the attention to for example, we experiment
Mhm.
harassment this way, but all the refugee women who go through
Yeah.
these crossings, they experiment and they have so much harassment,
Mhm.
and it's also, when I talk about harassment and the catcalling, I also think about all these women doing all this crossing where they don't only get harassed, it gets taken to further, you know, situations, which is nobody really talks about it. And
Mhm.
it's so sad and so hurtful because it should matter. Women equality and women rights shouldn't be a fight. It should be a right. We should have, regardless of where we come from, of our religion, or whatever skin color, we should have rights as human being of not having violence against it, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's visual, like, without this imposing that, oh no, but you're women, you need to take it and you need to shut up about it,
Mhm.
otherwise you're deemed difficult, otherwise people don't want to
Yeah.
work with you, otherwise you're the problematic one.
Yeah.
And it gets so tiring because one person, by say that you're problematic just because you're speaking up, can ruin your personal, but most of all as well your professional career, to the
Yeah.
point where you cannot even be hired anymore,
Yeah.
Yeah.
out of somebody victim, out of a victim being blamed just for talking and speaking up.
What if you could start your journey over? Start here and start again there. That's how life works, in a circular way. We understand the importance of circles, and that's why you are at the heart of ours. Find your way to wellness with Browns.
Marta, I saw you really agreeing with what Maria was saying there. Would you like to add on something?
The being seen, being labeled the problematic one. Now that, once again, I don't want to put my ADHD everywhere, but I speak a lot. I am I'm the person that if I have something on my mind, my mom used to explain my ADHD as I don't have breaks in my mind to what I say. So whatever I see, if it's not me saying, my mouth saying it, it's my face showing it. So me wanting to say what I feel. Also not finding the words to, because apparently my brain and my mouth sometimes aren't connected. So I'd try to put it out in words that make sense. It wouldn't make sense. I wouldn't be taken seriously because it's not coming out in the right way. And then it's, oh, because she's always complaining about little things and then she doesn't, I don't know, what was the word? Kinder bueno? Like, tipo, I don't know what you're going to be feeling today, how you'll be talking wise, how you'll be, how you'll be today, tipo, how hard you'll be to deal with. Because at some point I was seen as the, oh, you don't go to her for that. I mean, she'll go to someone else for it. I'm sorry, I could have given what he gave, if not more. Just because I try to raise awareness of what I went through, and then it's being shut down. It's being said, "Oh, it's how you saw it, or it's how he is." And then I'm like, okay, maybe I should just
It's the lack
suppress
of
that stuff.
accountability,
Yeah.
because that's how he is. I myself, I heard it so many times. So it doesn't mean that just because somebody is unethical, you can't accept these people being unethical. And being ethical and being professional doesn't only come into place when it's convenient. It should be kept throughout. And again, it's always, oh, but they're women, or the other
She's on
day,
her period.
yes.
And even like
Yes.
labels are just thrown away like this. Like someone is kind of emotional about something. You're acting so bipolar right now.
Stop.
Like throwing these kind of labels around is just it
gives
really
into
triggers
normalizing.
me, because okay, so we won't discuss bipolar disorder or borderline or depression or whatever in a serious way, but labeling someone as that just because they try to stand up for something, wow, like that is just so not okay. And even people, using you having some sort of mental illness or
Okay.
it, like, because no, it doesn't, like, I have worked on myself, like, and this is the thing, you can't just say, oh, it's because you're suffering from this or whatever. No, like, first of all, it takes a lot of courage to even open up to someone to explain, like, yes, I've been diagnosed with this and I have this, but then to use that against someone is just
That's
so
completely
messed up.
discriminative, and it shouldn't. It's, first of all, should be illegal. I believe that I think in some countries it is, and second of all, yet again, an employer, or if you're volunteering, they cannot take that against you. Obviously, if you're acting radical and you're putting people in danger, I would understand why they would take, a distance and be like, listen, this is not our morals, this is not our behavior. But for the principle, people cannot say to you, they cannot use your disability or your mental health against you.
Yeah, and that's the thing that happens so much. Like with certain people like this, they will just grab onto a tiny thing that you have said, or like kind of
To ruin your
something that you've
reputation.
shared,
Yeah.
and just take it to a whole other
ruin your
degree.
reputation.
Like, yes, I said I have this, for example, but I've still succeeded in life. I've still done everything I had to do. So it never stopped me. So why are you bringing that up right now? Like, they will take a tiny thing or just take one part of you and try to
destroy
switch.
your credibility, to demine your credibility, so that they can have yet again
more
another
power
over
and
you.
exactly,
And
because that
it's,
will fuel them.
And it becomes a form of harassment as well within itself,
exactly, because this is the problem, that the way society is right now, it silences the victims. And I kind of hate the word victim, not gonna lie, because it's so associated with like helplessness when it's not the case, but I'm using it
for lack of a better term.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it silences the victim. The fact that it's so hard to get any justice for whatever happens is already making you feel helpless. And then they just can keep doing it because they're not getting any kind of they're not getting any punishment, and like, not necessarily like a harsh punishment, but they're not facing any consequences.
Yeah.
So they think, I can keep doing this. And the more people they do it, the more people they silence. Like, it's just a
especially,
cycle.
to jump in here, especially if you're in a corporation, it's a lot of hiding, it's a lot of mobbing, it's a lot of
The bureaucracy
yeah,
as well,
and that's the next
the
thing.
hierarchy.
They try to scare you with the legal fees, with the
Yeah.
lawyers, with this,
Yeah.
because maybe you don't have as much money as a corporation, you don't have as much, and they try to always be like, oh, but that's not good for you, because they're gonna destroy you with legal fees, and you're just there as a human being feeling violated. Your human rights have been completely ignored. And what can you do? You try to do the best with what you can, but just because this system has been created and conformed to this manner. And this is why I was telling you need to keep on pushing and speaking up and advocating for things. And I'm so glad that you have this platform with Trudy, because it's really important and it's fundamental
Really is.
for women to come together and discuss. But also eventually for men to come together and discuss, because I would love to see more men, taking this conversation and being like, we need to protect our women. We need to have our boys being more, learn more, so that, they don't act this way.
Because at the end of the day, not gonna lie, what does catcalling get a man? If
Nothing.
not an
Honestly,
ugly
I
look,
fail to understand it.
Why?
I
What's
fail to
pushing you? What's-
understand what they get from it.
like, you're gonna get a nasty look back mount, what would you call it? Back
Yeah.
talk, and that's pretty much it. Auntie, the next time I see you, I'll make sure not to go anywhere close to you.
And
You're
on
not gonna get my
that,
number.
on that, you mentioned the back talking. So my own experience, which prompted this show, I had basically just come out of my house
I remember.
and I was about to cross the road, and this guy drives right in front of me. He stops for me to cross, even though there wasn't a zebra crossing. Like I wasn't.
Yeah.
He stops and he rolls down his window and he whistles at me. And in that moment, because personally, myself as a person, I cannot stay silent in these situations. And I don't think that we should stay silent in these situations. But I want to point out that sometimes actually speaking back to these people might put you in danger.
Correct.
Because basically, my reaction was I basically gave him my middle finger. I didn't say anything. I just gave him my middle finger. He stopped the car. At that point, he had already kind of drove off, but he was still just a few meters away from me. He stopped his car, opened his door, and proceeded to actually step out,
Yeah.
yelling all sorts of profanities at me. And in that moment, I was like, I froze. I didn't say anything else. I just continued walking. I hoped that there were some neighbors actually looking out. And that moment, I was like, whoa.
Petrified.
Yeah, like my own safety was about to get threatened. It was threatened because when you see a man actually stepping out of his car just because you reacted to his disrespect.
Yeah.
That can turn very dangerous, very ugly, very quickly.
Yeah.
It's, and the word you use as well, like frozen, I feel like that is something I've talked about in the past and I think is so important because I think especially like the more experiences you have like this, the more you freezing becomes like a reaction you have. When it becomes a dangerous situation, you freeze. Or if you've had past sexual abuse situation, something like that, like you tend to freeze when it's happening again. And
Because your body goes in shock.
exactly. And then
people see
sometimes
that as,
people
oh, you like the
yeah, and then people are like, oh, but why didn't you punch back? Or why didn't
Exactly.
you do? But you're it's a reaction.
Your
It's
body
a
is
body
shocked.
reaction that you are frozen. And even sometimes, like, if you're saying no to a guy and he keeps on pushing onto you and your no is just meaning nothing, at that point in time, your brain shuts down. You're like, what else am
can
I
I
going to
do?
do? Like,
And you actually get to a point that you're like, okay, I guess this is happening.
exactly.
And you give
like,
up just to get rid of the
yes.
guy. Like,
And
you end
it's
up giving
so
your number.
sad,
You end up
but it happens so much, and the fear of violence as well. Like I feel like now I can handle a lot of things, and with verbal stuff, like I'm fine. But when it comes to violence, that's a whole other thing. And this is the thing with catcalling. Like I would want to kind of just respond back, and sometimes I do, but that fear of like they can flip
let's
like
escalate
this.
this
Yeah.
time. Does he have my
It's
Because
because
he went from laughing to straight
yes.
almost foaming at the mouth. Like
Exactly.
just the middle finger
Yeah.
sent him off. And
Yes.
it makes me question, like, okay, so you have every right to disrespect me, but the second I stand up for myself, that's a problem?
Exactly.
That's a problem?
It's an issue of respect. Like in society, respect is not taught. Both respect to other people, but also self-respect. And the lack of self-respect, unfortunately, can like not hinder you in these situations, but it will
It
make
makes you
it worse
an
'cause-
easier target.
Exactly.
Because it's like,
domino
oh, she already
effect.
doesn't care about
Yeah.
her.
It's a domino effect.
and it's respect with everyone, to be fair, because this is, I know that the biggest issue is the harassment we've been talking about, but something that like saddens me sometimes also is that men also get harassed, and that is made fun of.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times I've heard a guy try to open up about, for example, oh, I was with this girl, I really didn't want to have sex, but she kept pushing it onto me and I didn't know what to do. And his friends are like, oh, but
Yeah,
sex
you're
with girls,
complaining
like,
about that?
Exactly. Like, what in the actual hell? Like, you know, or like,
Yeah, for sure.
this person, like this girl hit me. Oh, but you liked it, right? no, like, you know, I've heard stories of men going to police and saying like, okay, my wife is beating me up or something like this, and they disregard it because she's a girl though.
Mhm.
Like, so in reality, anyone can disrespect you, anyone can catcall, anyone can hit another person. And I think, yeah, we need to empower women, but we also need to empower men in a way of like,
Definitely.
this is never right. Like, not when it's
Exactly.
happening to you, not when you are doing it to other people, not when you're seeing your friends doing it to other people.
If you're seeing your friends, stop it.
Stop.
Like,
Exactly.
don't be part. This is
Don't
the
be
thing that I say to
complacent.
people, and this is why sometimes maybe in groups I am I'm sent away, because if I see something wrong,
You're gonna speak
you
up
know,
about it.
obviously I don't want to be the goody two of every single situation, but if I'm seeing something that is morally wrong, and if you guys see something that is morally wrong, like, I hope everybody will take that chance.
Yeah.
It don't matter if you lose your friends, as long as you're doing a good deed, because those
Yeah.
people are not your friends.
In fact, I want to ask you all, like, have you ever actually been helped by a bystander when you were experiencing some form of harassment?
Yes.
Oh, but I helped.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we'll get to that soon.
Yes, I told you that I've had a few experiences where I was, on the phone call with my friend from London, and those two guys in a car. Luckily, back in the day, I still have my dog, and my dog was quite a big dog. So, that was also something silly from their side, seeing a girl with a big dog, and you try to, with the car, they went down, they did they turned around and they came back up, and they were trying to grab me and the dog. I didn't know if they wanted to steal the dog or if they wanted to do anything to me.
Yeah.
All I know is that they came towards me. My dog was really mad over it. I had my best friend from London on the phone. She saw the whole thing. And luckily, my neighbor, who I didn't know before, with two pit bulls, was coming down. She saw the whole thing. She started screaming because she saw those two men, coming for me. And I was like, I was screaming at them, like, what the hell are you doing? Don't you put your hands on me? Don't you touch my dog? Like, you crazy? Like, I'm from southern Italy. Like, I am not gonna, like, I'm the opposite. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
freeze. I'm gonna give you hell. But, but also I'm a criminologist. So therefore, I know that not everybody has the same reactions.
Yeah.
And for me, yes, I get afraid in these things because it's normal, but I think about, what if that happened to my neighbor's kid who lives just right across? Okay, now she's turning 17,
Yeah.
but like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I could never be okay with the fact that this is going on in my area. I'm not going to report it. Like, I have to. And unfortunately, those situations are quick and they're dangerous. But luckily, sometimes you do have those guardian angels, I call them, that show up in the middle of the road. But sometimes you have people who harass you and other people just don't care.
Yeah.
And that also has happened. So I've had my lucky bunch, but also my unlucky, experiences. So
And Marta, so you said you've actually been the one to help people.
Yes, I do. I don't say this to sound corny, but I do to people what I want done to me.
Definitely.
And I stand by that, because if I'm being catcalled, if a man walks up to me and starts speaking to me, in my mind, all I'm thinking, apart from how the heck can I get this man to leave, is anyone seeing me? Is there another girl close by?
Yes.
Am I the only one seeing this? Is this guy, am I not doing enough for others to hear me around? So since I haven't gotten that, are you okay? Do you know this man? Every time I see a man start to raise his voice at a woman, be it at a bus stop, be it anywhere, on the beach last time, I don't say anything, like, I'm like, are you okay? So just in case, if it's one of those guys that Alech has the worst anger issues and that ends up turning on me, I give a hand signal. I'm like, are you okay? Because I can't stand seeing something that I know similar has happened to me, and I'm just gonna stand here like a
Not
pretending
doing
like it
anything.
didn't
thumbs
happen.
twirling. I can't. Every time and especially when it's a black guy, I know that no one's gonna say anything, but because they're like, oh, they probably know each other. And I don't want to say what other people think. I don't want to assume what other people think, but I know that this is one thing they see as bold dark skin, and unless the guy is I don't know, looks raggedy and I'm coming off from work, or unless it's very, very incredibly obvious, which still, they won't say something, they'll just give looks. They'll be like, you know, the I just don't know how there would be women right next to me and they wouldn't say jack shit. I'm sorry, what if this happened to your daughter, ma'am? Wouldn't you want her to speak? Wouldn't you want others to help her? What if it was you at the end of the day? Wouldn't you want anyone else to say something to you? The one conversation I can't get out of my head with this girl that I ended up going up to was like, I went, "Are you okay?" She said, like, she did like a head tilt. And I just started to speak to her like, so how was grocery shopping? Like, out, just as if I knew her, something to get her, like, the conversation from her and him to stop, and me to something to distract this guy. And I'm like, oh, okay, Mala, let's go. Or how was work? How was this? Something just to stop the because if I don't say anything, I know that I'm the one with the big mouth. That not everyone has my big mouth. It's an advantage and a disadvantage, but knowing that I have the big mouth and the balls in that case to say something in cases, I'm like, I can't waste it. I can't just look at them and be like, no, I should do something. No, because if I was in that situation, I would most definitely want someone to come to me, say something to get this man away.
Also, I think that the approach is also very important because, like she said, she wasn't trying to instigate a situation from happening and make it worse. It's also being, you know, very well aware of your surroundings, and of course, like, always keep an eye out, but you don't want to be the reason why perhaps
gets
she gets
worse.
beaten up at home.
Or,
You know, because this is another thing. We talk about harassment and we talk about guys and whatever gender, like, harassing you in the street, but this harassment, sometimes harassment can be done at home by family members. So that could have been a family member, and then, you know, so it's also very important to always be mindful of the situations and try not to make it,
Try not to make
you
it
know.
worse.
But I absolutely think that, Mar, what you do is incredible, and I think that more women should stand up for women. You know, if you're seeing somebody in trouble, even though you're not sure, just give it an eye out, give it a
Don't
look.
necessarily say something,
know,
but show that
give
you're
a
there
thumbs
if
up.
there is
Yeah.
something.
Even
Try to show presence, that God forbid something had to happen, you would be there. You wouldn't just think about your own skin and run the other way around.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me being in content creation, so I have the automatic, like, I can switch on my phone, put the camera, press record, swipe from photo to video without even looking at my phone. If it wasn't for that, when I don't have any other girl near me, if it wasn't for me being able to do that discreetly, so the man's not like, oh, what are you doing with your phone there? I wouldn't have any proof of so many times that this has happened, which is it's a weird coincidence, but I thank myself for that. I'm like, if you didn't know how to go through your phone, just like how it is down, or with the lowest brightness.
Like,
Because
I did
Allah has
my video of the guys in the car was really not smooth, was really not well hidden. I literally was like this while walking my dog. But then again, like, does it really need to be like that? Do I really have to take a video in order for you?
Why won't you
to
believe
make
me
sure?
with my word?
Yeah, but no, in order for them as well not to repeat that, you know. And unfortunately, sometimes it can also instigate because, for example, now I take different routes we're next to home because I know these guys go with the cars because they work close by. And, you know, it's a daily thing. It's kind of like you need to play hide and seek. And it's not a game. It's my life. And I don't want to have this attention. And I shouldn't have to, you know, find ways around it instead of, you know, like, you guys in a car, you guys are working here, respect the fact that I live here, and leave me alone.
But then there's also the fact that it's not only you take a different route, then it's like, oh, wear bigger clothes.
Oh yeah, that's
Don't.
for sure.
But Mar, you're asking for it if you're walking out like that.
That's
Sorry,
another
I want to look
thing.
good for my Instagram pictures. I don't give a I don't
that's-
care what this.
That's exactly another thing. It's like the way you look. You're
for it.
asking. I get this all the time. It's like you're provocative. I'm sorry, with all due respect, just because I am in tune with my sexuality doesn't need that you need to take advantage of that. Doesn't
It
mean
took time for me to love myself like this. Now that I'm showing that I love myself by wearing stuff that I like, stuff that accentuates what I like about me, you're saying that is why men are not treating me right.
Yeah, I had men asking
It's
me and treating me like very, very poorly and then saying, oh, but I thought you were a sexual being. I'm like, with all due respect, just because I am okay with my sexuality and I like, I am not, like, I don't have to change who I am and feel uncomfortable with myself just because you cannot accept a no
Yeah.
or a boundary or the fact that just because I am a sexual being doesn't mean I want to be sexual with you.
with you.
Exactly.
And you cannot harass me on it.
Taking the ownership. Like, I've had a specific guy tell me, but I saw you kissing this other person. So, like, I just got jealous and I wanted to as well. I'm like, how is me kissing someone else equal to, yes, you have the right to kiss me? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. And as you said, owning your sexuality, being a sexual being does not mean you are a sexual being with every single person on this planet.
Correct.
There is consent. There is, you choose how you are with who you want to be.
And it doesn't mean that because you're being harassed into being that you're
Yeah.
going to be like, no.
No, you
It is
have
absolutely.
I
and
point some-
even no,
After you,
it's
after you.
okay. Like, but even the no counts in anything. You can stop a situation. You can say no matter what is going on. You could have agreed to go home with this person and you're naked and now you decide not, and that is fine as well. Just because you say yes now doesn't mean
And
you
that's
say
another thing. Sorry, Marta, just
Yeah.
because you go home, this is another thing. Like, and this has happened to me. Just because I went home with somebody, just because they wanted to give me a lift, does not mean that you're going to harass me into a sexual act.
Yeah.
And
They will try to.
and
Yeah,
I've
but-
been put in situations where they lock the car and they're like, oh,
So what are we gonna do now?
I'm like, excuse me.
وصلتك الساعة ومش حاطين بوسة. One of the girls posted a TikTok about that. I'm not gonna take credit.
You know what I
but
mean? I'm
Yeah.
just like, excuse me. And then, you get scared, and obviously there is different things. There is, you either feel coerced into do it because you want to get out of the situation. You either argue.
Yeah.
And, there is, ideally it wouldn't be like this, you don't have to be afraid of even getting a lift home, whether it is a friend, a coworker, a
Yeah.
family member, like.
In fact, this was mentioned in an episode that just came out on the main show, that the majority of women have actually gone into a sexual situation
to get
against their own will just because they're tired of saying no and being ignored,
Yeah.
basically. And they, okay, this is
Also,
happening.
and just one last thing. One of the scary things about harassment is when perhaps you had one or too many drinks, you can't remember, and then they take a video or something, then they will harass you through those images and play it to their friends and all of that and be like, look at her, she is like, that's a perpetrator. Like, it's not about me, it's about what you're doing. And the fact that people don't recognize as this is wrong. I mean, there was a porn being played a couple of months ago in Malta in this cafeteria, like it was nothing,
And
that's harassment.
Yeah. And I think a scary thing as well is like, I feel like there is more awareness on being catcalled by strangers and so on. But there are many situations where a friend, a family member will try to touch you inappropriately or do these things to you. And I think that kind of adds another layer because you're like, but I thought he was my friend. I thought she was my friend. And that adds it as well because it makes you question. And this is why, again, it goes back to education, because you need to be like, we need to empower people to be strong enough to realize when something is not right. So, because most of the time, these situations and domestic violence at home, it's going to happen when you're alone. And so you're going to have many people invalidate your experience or tell you, are you sure? But are you sure? But
And the more are you sure they say, the less
more-
sure, and much the less sure you are that it happened, but the less sure you are about actually speaking up about, is it okay?
And this is the thing, like, I always tell my friends, like, speaking up about these things is really, really important. But you also need to make sure that you do it when you are okay mentally, because when you speak up and when you try to get justice, you are going to be faced, unfortunately, at this point, with a lot of people trying to invalidate,
Yeah.
trying to sweep it under the rug so that there's less work.
Completely.
So
To be very like deeply rooted in your truth
exactly.
and not be swayed by these
Yes.
doubts,
Because I mean, the situation is already traumatic enough, but having to narrate it over and over again,
over
having
to
it been
different people.
And then usually
questioned,
another
you know?
thing is that, like we said before, then people usually tend to put your mental health in doubt, you know, and they prey on that, and it's this kind of just like the Ouroboros, the snake that eats itself. It's just this continuous thing. And you know, I'm a bit of advocacy. I do advocacy a lot, and this is why, like, we go back to, you know, having kids in schools and, you know, really educating the kids. But I feel like a lot of people say, you know, we need to educate the kids in this, we need to educate kids in that, but in school, then it's just a talk once a year, maybe, and then it's completely forgotten and forbidden. And you know, it shouldn't be like that. There is still like all this taboo topics, which, you know, there shouldn't be taboo. Like all of this that we're talking today in regards to harassment is also very much taboo, because everybody's like, hush, hush, hush.
Don't get involved with this. It's their battle.
In fact, on this note, because we've already touched upon a bit of education, the attitude that people tend to have, but in your opinion, how do you think these societal attitudes are actually towards women are actually contributing to the normalization of street harassment and harassment in general?
I think like there is a lot of just trying to normalize and to blame it on women and to make you question things related to that. Like when we were talking about I think you had mentioned it, like because it's because of what you were wearing. One of my first experiences, I guess, with like catcalling and so on was I was 13 or 14. I was wearing my brother's t-shirt, sorry, but I stole his shirts a lot. My brother's huge t-shirt and really baggy pants. And I was 13 or 14. So, you know, and I was in a queue to buy a phone card, I remember, like to top up. And this guy, very old, starts like, I love you, making kissy noises, trying to grab my leg. And I remember like looking back at that, and whenever I hear anyone says it's because of what you're wearing, I always think back at that. And I'm like, excuse me. But okay, maybe sometimes I wear not such baggy
That's
clothes,
not an
no? But
excuse. Like, just
like,
because you're wearing
yeah.
something that's a bit revealing doesn't mean you need to be abused for it.
It happens no matter what you are wearing,
Exactly.
because it's not what you're wearing, it's the person. Because if a person is respectful,
then-
you could be naked and they will still not touch
Exactly.
you.
But then it goes from what you're wearing to your attitude, from your
Exact-
attitude
there's
to the way you carry
something.
yourself, from the way you carry. It's always there is something to excuse, but there is never something to, you know, to
Fix,
say
to solve the
exactly,
problem.
to hold accountability.
And because of this, it's giving
evasion of
it's
accountability.
I don't want to say it's making more guys feel, but it's like it's giving like a green light to men to be
Yes.
like, oh, well, I mean, nothing has happened, so why don't I do it again to this other girl and then this other girl? It's if they're not if they stop doing it at one place, they'll go to another workplace and they'll do it
On
there.
this topic of clothing, once I had written an article. There was this girl who was volunteering at I think it was the MSPCA or something, at a shelter, and she had basically posted that she had gotten catcalled, and she posted a photo of what she was wearing at the time. Similar to what you described, like a massive t-shirt, joggers, full of like dog hair and slobber and everything. Her hair was like a complete mess, and she still actually got catcalled.
Yeah.
So it is really not about what you wear, and it should never be used as you said.
exactly.
I
Like,
mean, most of the times that I was as well put in an uncomfortable situation or catcalled, I was with my dog walking or alone walking. It's you
minding
know,
your own business.
yeah, and or you know, in a workplace where, you know, like obviously, I have worked in predominantly male sectors, even with my volunteering with search and rescue. And there's always been the comments like, you're too pretty to do this heavy men's work, like, where you taking that to tight figure, or like, like, it gets worse. Obviously, I'm keeping it very light here, but it's completely, yeah, go more.
Oh no, I just so while I was working in that employment where that specific situation had happened, there was a situation before this, while still this one was going on, which I had gone to this guy for help, to console, to confide in, whatever the word is, where I worked around a pool. The uniform was shorts and a t-shirt. Now, we didn't buy the uniforms were provided. And apart from me not accepting to wear something very oversized just because laundry didn't have my size, if you don't have my size, I'll try to find it in my size in a shop that matches how it is. But these specific shorts, I guess they were tight. For this man, they were picturable tight. He took a picture. Like, I was at the bar putting the dirty drinks on the, like, near the dishwasher, and he just took a picture of my ass. And earlier, he was that same client that kept pushing, oh, but give me your Instagram, girl. Oh, because this. And like we mentioned, for me to shut him up, I gave him my Instagram. I had in mind to see the new request and to block it straight away. But before I got to blocking it, he had sent me the picture, and I had no idea that he took a picture of my ass.
Yeah, that's very scary.
Yeah.
I was so
I've
thankful
had it
that
from
I
a
had.
woman.
I was so thankful that I had
Yeah.
men colleagues in the bar that were like, oh my God, where is he? I'll fuck him up. Sorry for the language. I was so happy to have their support at that moment. It wasn't to hurt the guy. It wasn't, but
You have the validation
No,
and
that's
the
it.
support.
and
Exactly.
why would you send it to me?
But that's
Maybe-
also so creepy because it makes you feel violated under
Yeah,
so many
yeah.
aspects.
And you said this happened to you from a
A
woman.
woman. Yeah. So I was put in a very uncomfortable situation where it turned out a little bit, I thought we were just friends. And then the connotation, as I realized, was a little bit more sexual. And, I've said, no, that's not. But even then, what I mean is just this narrative of when people don't accept that you say no, they will twist and turn. And, I've been, I've had the same incident where photos were taken of me and shared. And I felt very harassed because whether I'm in a street or I'm at the airport, why are you taking a photo of me? Like, what are you, even if it's being shared between a group or whatever, like, why are you doing that? Why are you trying to harass somebody who's going on with their day? Like,
Yeah.
what's the point in that?
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual. Unfortunately, yes, I've had a situation where one was sexual and one wasn't. One was more like bullying and harassing on a different note. But both of them are equally wrong, and equally they should not happen. One is not just because it's lesser evil than the other. That's
Qué bella, bonita, somos las señoritas que checan y conquistan, somos candela, ella, ella. I like it like that. I like it like that.
So this can also serve as kind of help for those women and people who are watching us at home. What strategies have you adopted to kind of cope or respond to harassment in your life? Marta?
I'm not sure if this is a response as such, but apart, like, location, always like like having me and my sister never used to text. Okay, like I always used to see, oh, it's because it's my sister, she's so annoying. But when we got to the age where we were both going out late, like independently, tipo, we gave each other our location, and like she checks my location more than I check hers, but I ask her, I text her, she just goes ahead and looks. But make sure that someone, if you're going somewhere with either someone you don't know, anything, to be fair, make sure someone has your location. Tipo, have emergency contacts that you can access straight away. Have
That's all very good.
it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't
Yeah.
have to
No, but
constantly be
we have
"Hana,
to
listen."
protect ourselves still.
I literally
because
end up texting my sister, voice recording, Ismahan, I'm going out with some friends later. I'm walking over to the bus. There's a creepy guy next to me. Oh, wait, no, he passed by. It's okay. Or, Auhan, I'm at Exiles. I'm just working a bit. There's a creepy guy, like, a bit to my left. Not sure what he's on about, but he keeps looking. So, text me or call me in 15 minutes. Why do I have to go to such measures just to be able to work in front of the beach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But also another thing, why can we not have tools to protect ourselves? Like something silly, like, okay, a pepper spray is not silly, but they say, oh, don't use pepper spray, use air spray.
or
You're a
essential oils or
doctor, though.
something.
You're a doctor. You know there is a massive difference between
There is,
pepper
it's
spray.
true.
It's not the same.
No,
and deodorant, they're like, use deodorant. Sorry,
It's
they
different.
said it is more damaging. Maybe like long term, I guess, I don't know.
Akelhin,
But
at
like
that moment.
in that
Yeah.
moment, you need something that, I'm not saying, okay, let's become American, let's have guns and tasers. No, absolutely not. But let's try and have something for anybody to feel safe. I mean,
Do you
you
make
know?
use of anything that makes you feel safer?
For now, my patience, because you have to be like, honestly, for now, my patience, because you have to be very patient in this, sometimes it's about fight or flight. Obviously, don't ever pick a fight in a
Yeah.
situation like this. But if somebody's holding you against your will, yes, go, run, fight, get off.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, for example, those guys in the video, those 4 guys with the tinted window car, what if it wasn't afternoon, it would have been evening? What if I didn't have my dog? What if my neighbors wouldn't be there? What if one of them grabbed me and pulled me in the car, like it has happened at prior time? There's a lot of what ifs which are very possible, but I have nothing to protect myself. Okay, maybe I can do boxing class, maybe I can do Kamagaga class or Kung Fu or whatever, but a pepper spray is like literally something that you can, spray and that's it. It can be registered, it can be, regularized, like many other things. But, at the end of the day, not everyone is able to toss a punch. You know what I mean? Not everybody is strong enough to do that. But it's easier to just spray something and run away.
Sorry, I said that I don't have specific methods, but when I'm even in my road, keys between my fingers. And
Yeah, but you need to be careful with that, because if you hurt somebody more than they hurt you, then you
you
can
will
be.
be in trouble.
I know. I can
know?
trigger them more. I can make them. I can make the
It's not
situation
about-
worse.
It's
but I
about
feel,
legalities, like legally,
Yeah.
you can, and I'm not a
get in
lawyer,
more
and you
trouble.
always, because you'll end up physically hurting them, and all they did, they could say that they weren't following you, that you turned crazy.
Yeah.
then I have literally nothing else. Then
You know?
literally my key, and my key isn't even sharp. It's like a square at the top. But
This
it's,
is why
it's the one
a pepper
little
spray
thing.
is something that doesn't hurt, like it doesn't puncture anything. It gives you, yes, it burns. It gives,
But it will
obviously-
pass and it will give you safety in that moment.
and it gives you that window to run away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without
exactly.
having to put yourself and your body under stress and under more trauma
Yeah.
and having to hurt somebody else.
Yeah.
Because hurting somebody else is never the answer. Even before I said fight if you're in. Ideally, there wouldn't be this, I'm never pro violence. So, unless you don't have any other way, yes, But ideally, there would be something that it's not, not like the keys or like a knife. A pepper spray would be something very simple, very
And I think
appropriate, I think, for these things.
Yeah, and I think definitely phones are a good tool at the moment. Like with one of my friends, we had kind of a code that like if I send a specific letter so that it's quicker to text, like if I send a letter A, for example, it means a guy is following me, like call me right now. Like if I send a T, it means this, like
You have your
and-
little code, kind of.
Yes, so it would help,
very good,
because you can send it and just there is that happening. And yeah, like I do that so many times when I'm being followed or something like that. I always just call someone, or if no one picks up, I still start speaking
Start
on the
speaking. Do
phone.
I've
not
Like,
done that actually.
you know,
don't
like pretend it, just show that there are other people kind of present, even if
witnesses.
on the phone. And my sister had also gotten me something, I think from the UK, but it's like this little keychain that I had with my bag. And like the moment you pull it, it starts making like a lot of like alarms, like ambulance alarms and stuff like that. And it's really, really like deafeningly loud. So something like that is like good as well, because you'd be in a situation like, okay, it might not completely stop the situation, but it would freak them out for sure, because suddenly there's this loud noise in their ear. So at least it will either shock them and they will like change or go away, or you can go away. So there are
But
different
also,
methods.
something that's really weird that I've also discovered while talking to people is that a lot of people who have asked for help while in the street, they never get help.
Yeah.
And what is also odd that I found out through conversation is that people are more likely to help you if you scream for fire than for help. And because they are
them.
because they are more afraid of losing something themselves instead of, and I think that's I think that that's something that society we need to fix, because if you hear somebody screaming for help, you should go and put your face out there and see what's going on. Can I help this person?
It all goes back to kind of just working on recreating a society full of respect and just being humane, like being human and respecting everyone. And if there is a problem, if someone is in a bad situation, then you help them, even if you don't know them. You don't need to love a person to care about them. You can just care about other people, because they are also
Principle.
people. And
Treat others like you want to be treated.
exactly, like
It's a
if there's a
principle.
baseline of
It's morals.
respect, like and love for other people, then you will help. And weirdly enough, like for example, for me in clubs, I think I've gotten the most help in these situations. And I've also helped a lot because, I mean, obviously, I think we all know in clubs, people grow, people come and whatever. And
Yes.
I am very aware usually of kind of the people around me, and if someone looks like they're being kind of annoyed by a person. And there's been many cases where you just like lock eyes, even with a stranger, and like, okay. And you just kind of like reach out for hands and you start dancing and you kind of pull them
I've made a
away,
few friends like that. Yes,
Like,
I made a few friends
so
that I've caught crying because they were having fights
Yeah.
back in the days where I used to go to Patchville. It's been I'm just 27, but it feels like a long time ago. And yes, I mean, it's sad, it's unfortunate that like, instead of having a good time, you have to witness this abuse. But I think that's it's calling for being a sense of community
Yep.
is the most
Yeah.
important thing, regardless of where you are and
Yeah.
regardless of difference in religion. Because in order to have a community, it doesn't have to be that I don't have to be the same as you. I don't have to be like, we're all in our own differences, but yet we're here making a community which has standards and moral values which are quite strong. So that's kind of the reinforcement of having moral standards which treat people the way you want to be treated, but also no means no.
Yeah.
And there is no persuading someone, not because you try to buy them off or sweet talk them or impose yourself through physical abuse, that harassment is not going to be called for what it is. And
and that's, people need to understand they don't have the rights to anyone. Like no one owns you, no one.
a thing that really scared me, and I've had people saying, I'm an empath, I know what you feel. And I was there saying, no, that's not the way this is. I said no, but no, I'm an empath, this is I know how you feel. Like it's this coercing you into their narrative, their sick twisted narrative, that's really scary, because how many times you're going to say to somebody, no, that's not the way I feel. And they go through, oh, I'm an empath, you don't need to speak about how you
That's
feel.
just
I'm going to tell
manipulation
you
then.
how you feel.
Yeah. You wanted to add something on to that?
my mind kind of blanked a bit. But I agree with that a lot. Like it, and to be honest, like recently I had some experiences that made me question stuff a bit because again, I thought like I'm getting better at like dealing with situations like catcalling and situations that are kind of very obviously like, okay, this is off. And I trust my gut feeling. If the vibe is off, I'm gonna go away. I'm gonna not let it escalate. But sometimes it's, yeah, with other women, for example, or with people that they are sweet talking and but then at the same time they're trying to pressure you into something.
Excellent.
And
Oh no,
I
I
think
understand. No, yes,
yes,
that's so
because
wrong. But
yeah,
get the
because
fuck away from my mouse.
that is like, it's like another level of twisted
Literally.
because it's not kind of
Are you
Manipulation.
trying to
it's
help,
sugar
or are you trying to
coated.
get what you
It's
want?
first of
It's
all,
sugar-coated
it's
harassment,
not,
you
it's
know?
grooming. It's
Yeah,
grooming.
like-
People will groom you, whether you're in a workplace, where you're at
Yeah.
home. And this is again the whole thing with the empath, and that's really something that angers me. Lying on being empathic and lying on, really wanting the best for someone to try and put them into a place where they really don't feel comfortable, where they really don't want that attention. There is,
Yeah.
if you're really an empath, you would understand that this is sick, this makes me uncomfortable, and I don't want to be here. I don't want to listen
Yeah.
to you. I am telling you how I feel. You have no right to tell me how I feel.
Amen.
Yeah,
Say it
exactly.
again for the people in the back.
It's
So
that's
and that's something that kind of like gets brushed because like no, I'm older than you. I'm an empath. I know how you feel.
Ooh, I'm older
I
than
said
you.
no, I don't.
yeah.
It's no.
And even sometimes they will say like, "Oh, but I love you so much. I just want you to be happy." Like, no, like,
do this.
and
Please.
yes, or like, no, I know where you need to be right now. I know what you need right now. No,
Or
clearly,
this is the best
like,
for you. This is the best for you. I
exactly.
want the best for you. This is, and it's just so twisted because and it's so dangerous because me as well as a criminologist, and I specialize in I'm a behavioral analyst. When I see this behavior in a subject that I am, looking at or observing quite closely, it gets quite scary because then when you talk about the families and the individuals that surround him and you tell them, listen, you see this person for this, but this person also has this imposter behavior,
Yeah.
which then shows how much they harass this other individual. And they say, no, he's such a good person. He's such a good person.
No,
la, la, la."
no.
It was probably this other person that got him triggered.
Maybe it was a bad day. Maybe
Yes,
something
there
happened
is
that
no,
day.
further-
but there is no excusing, whether it is one time or a recurring thing. Abuse and harassment should never be excused.
Yeah.
People do mistake, but harassing somebody, it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's a choice because it's not like, okay, I tripped down the stairs. Like harassment isn't like that.
Yeah.
Don't trip into harassing somebody.
Yeah, and you don't have to like literally kind of label that person as a bad person. It's a bad action, and you should never excuse that, And I think all of this kind of further feeds into that self-doubt but was it actually wrong, or am I imagining it? And actually, like my sister, shout out to Vanessa, but she kind of, I was opening up to her about something, and she kind of found a way to get through, I think, and to help with the whole concept of, was this wrong or not? Because sometimes it can be difficult when you experience something alone to kind of see, but am I imagining it, or was it actually really like this bad? And she was like, okay, but imagine you are like, this exact story that you just told me, it's not something that happened to you, but it's something that our niece, for example, comes to tell us, our 5-year-old niece, or your 10-year-old sister, or 15-year-old sister, just another person who you really care about. Imagine they said the exact same story to you. Would you also be questioning them of like, are you sure? No, you would instantly realize like how fucked up this is.
Yeah.
So why aren't you realizing it for
About yourself.
In fact, you're reminding me, like, I'm the eldest and I have a younger sister. And I remember the first time that my sister came up to me and told me that she got catcalled. I think she was still like 16 years old.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
It hits
It
different.
wouldn't have happened in front of me, like, because that would have been a moment that I would have definitely stood up to them. And we should always connect with that feeling that it's either happening to someone we love,
Yeah.
even if it's happening to you and you're not realizing how serious it is. You should know the nature of those actions and the consequences that they can bring, and to absolutely not accept them.
Not accept. Yeah.
I want to ask you all. So we've already kind of touched upon education a little bit, but I want us to go a bit deeper. So how important do you think education is in changing these attitudes? And what kind of conversations do you think parents should be having with their children, whether they're women or men, to avoid, not to avoid actually, about respecting others in a public place?
I think teaching people boundaries would be the and not just people, just even in school, being awareness of boundaries. I think would be such a big step forward. Even in regards to act, the way of acting and mannerism, But boundaries, I think for me, it's it's the most important things that should be taught in school.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it can be easily taught in school. I mean, you can teach music and all these other things, and you cannot teach boundaries, which
Yeah.
it's a tool for those kids to really do something great for their lives and avoid, abuse in the best of.
And they can be used in all situations. Like we need boundaries in our family relationships, in our
Correct.
friend relationships, in our workplace relationships. Okay, so we have boundaries, Antonella.
I think I definitely agree with boundaries. I think just reinforcing the idea of respect. I keep on mentioning respect, but I feel like we're currently living in a society that's becoming more and more individualistic, more competitive, more you're trendy if you're joking about something. You're trendy if you're gossiping, if there's rumors. And this all stems from disrespecting other people,
But also from insecurity, I
and
think.
from insecurity. So I think that people should just kind of discuss and educate on how to respect other people, how to respect yourself, because the more okay you are with yourself, the less likely you're going to hurt other people. So this is really important, and to practice it, to show it. Also, because it's not just about the words. A teacher can tell you, you need to respect other people, and then discreetly insult a student,
It needs to be
or
shown, eh?
bully students.
Yeah.
How this is a contradiction. You cannot say, guys, respect each other, and then bully a student the next second, or allow bullying to happen among students. So it needs to be taught.
And bullying is another form of
Exactly.
harassment.
So these
which
things
is
need to be
very
taught,
much
but
underrated.
they also need to be practiced. People learn by seeing, not just by hearing. You need to show respect to other people, even with kids in families. You need to show that there's respect between you and your partner, you and the rest of the family members.
And disrespect, sorry to jump in, but disrespect is not through violence.
Exactly.
Because a lot of families turn, especially from what I've witnessed, in fear. They have the kids in fear that, if you do something wrong, there is nothing wrong in making a mistake, but obviously having that abused, and if you make a mistake, that's also something that can impact the individual to then act up even more. And that's something
because
that
some people associate violence with discipline, when it is not the same thing. And this is again, it's why are you going to hit your child or hit anyone in front of your child or in front of anyone
Making
else?
it look like it's okay.
Exactly. And then it's kind of the same as a parent who smokes all the time and then tells their kid, you're not allowed to smoke. I'm sorry, but how is that actually teaching the kid to not smoke?
Yeah.
Because you're doing it in front of them all the time. So even if you say don't smoke, you are giving them the lesson that it's fine to smoke. Not hating on smokers and stuff right now, but it's an example that words matter a lot, but actions matter way more. So these things are really important. And This is also why it's important to educate professionals, because especially with little kids say a lot when you hear them, because they don't know how to filter yet. So they will say, oh yeah, my dad hit my sister, for example. Like, sometimes these things will be said because they're not filtering things. So listen to what they're saying. If they're telling you, for example, I'm scared to go with my mom here, or like, listen to these
Ask
things.
yourself
And
why.
exactly, like,
Read between the lines.
read.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
important. So it's important to educate the professionals, because especially when it's with younger people, they need the support. You need to be able to see signs
They
of
also need the protection because
And
they are
someone to look
younger,
up
they
to
are
as well.
vulnerable. So
Yeah.
it's you need to be that figure that gives them that protection. And unfortunately, when kids don't have anyone, they turn to other things like suicide, and that's also very, very scary because it all comes from a place of obviously not in all cases, but in some cases it comes from a place of being feeling persecuted, feeling like you don't fit in, feeling harassed, bullying. And it's this very sad circle.
What about you, Marta?
She kind of fed into my point, tipo, but I'll say it in a different way. Because in my mind I had it, tipo, when I'm being catcalled, when I'm being approached, and there's a mother and a daughter right next to me, and it's not that I want the mother to tell the kid, listen, I don't want you to accept that. I don't want, but not saying anything in a situation where you can see whatever is happening, but you decide to, no, don't meddle, do not go, don't try to insert yourself in the situation, let them sort it out. Say something. I don't want to be the whole see something, say something, but at the same time, if you're not going to teach your kid right in front, where they have a visual demonstration of what is wrong and what should not happen, and you're just there like, when's the bus coming? No, I mean, it's right there, because you can explain it to a kid. Listen, when this happens, you should do this, or you shouldn't do this. But when it's like right in front of you, that's when, I'm sorry, I'm a visual learner. That is how I would learn from a young age. I mean, kids, when at a young age, they're flexible physically and mentally. So whatever you're taught in primary school, how you're brought up, how you're taught, what you're taught, and the ways you're being taught, at a young age, that's how you will form how you will think in the future.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Tipo, so not saying anything when there is literally something right in front of you happen. Attak nervous. How can you not? How I'm not gonna say I can't touch the topic of, oh well, you can't be a good parent if you, no, not at all. But in this specific case, it's a perfect opportunity for you to teach your kid in that moment what should not happen, what they should look out for, what they should something. But don't let it slide as if it's okay, because then that will continue feeding into, oh well, I mean, I saw it happen to that girl, so I can do it to a girl.
Yeah.
No.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of the mentality of kind of denial. Like, if I just don't talk about it, we don't talk about it, it's not happening.
Not
And
acknowledging
that's
the
really not how it works.
Did you speak
And
about it at the time that it happened?
yeah, like, why deny all these things? Why stigmatize them? And then it's just making them okay in the kids' eyes. And it's the same situation that you were talking about before as well, of like, oh, but they didn't shove you in the car. Like, why do we have to wait for something to get unbelievably traumatic, unbelievably bad to do something? Why do we have to wait for people to kill themselves to change a system?
or to be
Like,
killed,
or
like
to
for
be-
example in
yeah.
harassment, like we were talking before, one of the women that was a great journalist and got harassed and reported this, Daphne Caruana Galizia. We all know what happened. We all know she was being harassed, but no one protected her.
She had placed so many
You know?
reports as well.
And
It's not
there
like
is
she didn't
just-
ask for
yeah,
help.
and there is just so much a victim can do. But when a victim is not heard,
And a woman with her platform, with her, it's the net. I don't know what the word is. With
because
her
people
connections,
kept
I'm
on
like,
saying, "Oh, but she looked for it. She shouldn't have done her job." But
That makes-
she was doing her job, and she should have not been killed just because she was doing her job. And she reported it, all the harassment. She reported it. She asked for help.
that's what she feeds into. Then, oh, but if Daphne didn't get help, how the fuck will I get help?
That's
There
the
you go.
sad
And that-
thing. It fuels
That
the
it's just a
cycle
little loopy
because
loop. It's
Because also Daphne wasn't just a woman that was walking down the road. She was a very well-known woman. So yes, that gets to that.
if
Like,
her with
if
her
that happened to her,
contact.
somebody who was so loud in the field.
How am I, Mrs. Nobody? Who's gonna listen to me?
Yeah.
Who's gonna believe me?
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm.
And that takes a big realization, because even Daphne and Daphne's family, they're still fighting for justice as we're talking right now. And it is very scary, because that's also another form of harassment that was not taken in accountability, and it resulted with violence against an innocent woman.
that's why I think it's important to start small as well, in a sense of, unfortunately, changing the entire system is going to take a long time. But at least if we show respect in our daily lives, if we start changing the system slowly, even through the people who are close to us, maybe that will help. Because sometimes you will not get justice from the legal system, but at least if you have a support system that is validating your experiences and helping you grow from the experience rather than letting it destroy you, that makes a difference, at least for
Yes,
your
but
own.
we do need to advocate for better laws that protect
That is
not just
for
women, that
sure.
protect against harassment
With everyone.
whatever the gender.
Yes.
And for
uh,
certain things to not be said in court. Like there were certain situations where the magistrate would actually say, suggest that they were asking for it, or
Yes,
make comments about what they were wearing at the time of the
Yikes.
incident.
Oh my
this
God.
Like
How
when this
professional.
reaches
Yeah.
that level,
Yeah.
that it is
Absolutely
being said
unacceptable.
inside of a
court.
courtroom, that just
Yeah.
goes to show how deep this issue is,
Yeah.
you know?
It cycles back to how we started in reality, with discussing the comments from authoritative figures that are meant to be supporting your justice,
Yeah.
saying things that will screw it up even more. And this is why it's so important that to report, but to also have your mental support whilst it is happening. Because
Yeah.
these things, again, there needs to be education to these professionals as well to not say these things, but you need to be supported, because when you hear these, it will break you, you know?
And also with being supported, the stigma when people know that you're being supported, you need to kind of forget all about that.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be stigma. However, therapy is one of the most incredible things. I'm a big advocate for therapy.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, you need to be supported. And you can't when you go through all this trauma, you cannot say, okay, I'm not gonna go to therapy because it's uncomfortable. It is because it's uncomfortable that you're
Yeah,
going to find yourself
and that you
really
need it.
flourishing out. And I'm a big advocate for therapy, because it's still a taboo here in Malta, especially. And people will look at you like you have mental health
Yeah.
problems if you go to therapy. But you don't need to have mental
Which is
health
totally fine, by
problems.
the way. I
Exactly,
mean,
if you
either
do.
way. But
Yes,
exactly.
but you don't need to, because at the end of the day, therapy, it is a safe space to open up and also come to the realization that if you are being abused, or if you are actually the abuser, you might not know, you can rectify your behavior. So, and beyond boundaries, I think therapy, it's my advice that I would give.
And for people to refer as well, because again, for example, if you have a case, you report it to the police, and there's the famous not enough evidence, which unfortunately, I mean, if you have been
You.
Really try to keep it in.
like if you were hit inside your own home, or if you were raped alone, like if you can barely remember exactly what was happening, like there are so many situations where the sufficient evidence is almost impossible to get. In these situations, even if you're gonna look this person in the eye and say we cannot help because there is not enough legal evidence, at least offer, okay, we cannot offer legal help,
But we
but
can
there's
do
Victim
this.
Support Malta. There are therapists, and refer to therapy, to psychiatrists, because
Instead of just shoving the door and be like,
Exactly.
we cannot help you, goodbye, it's
Yeah.
not our job.
exactly, because
I agree.
some things are out of people's hands, but at least you can validate and refer to someone that can help them process it. Like
Also,
there's
a system needs to be done because, like
yeah.
we were saying before, if you are sexually assaulted, the fact that still there is not system, even from the hospital
No.
side, from the police
And a lack
side.
of empathy, huh?
Yes.
Lack of empathy and
A lot of
respect for the
harassment,
victim.
yes, and a lot of harassment, and this is for both genders, because when you go and hear the stories in Patchable, you will hear a fair share of both genders being harassed and
Yeah.
sexually assaulted. And actually, like you said, if it's a man going to report, it's actually taken even more not seriously,
Yeah,
because they're
yeah.
like, well, why didn't you like the attention?
Yeah. It's like this system
It's not okay.
messes up men as well. It's not just women who are suffering, it's
Yeah.
men as well. I mean, they're already also under a lot of pressure coming from past decades more, but of like not being emotional. There's, oh, you're gay if you're
There's a
crying.
stigma.
Like,
There's an
so
absolute stigma on men being emotional, which is, by the way,
exactly.
so bad because I rather have my man very like in tune with his emotions
Yeah.
and very like aware of, not hurting my feelings, my friends' feelings, or, and being actually, it's not about being politically correct, but it's about really going out of your way not to purposely hurt somebody and not to make them feel
Because
uncomfortable.
the way society is like, okay, men's emotion is anger, women's emotion is they will break down and cry. And then if anything happens outside of these boxes, like, whoa, what the hell is happening with this
Yeah, like
person?
we're not conforming now.
Exactly. Like,
Or
oh,
mental health.
or exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just,
Okay, so
yeah.
I love how you two have just been bouncing off of each other, but this show is coming to a close now, and I would just like to express I love when this happens. You girls have been answering my questions before I even ask them.
I saw you taking them off, and I'm like, yeah.
The conversation flowed so naturally. I'm so happy you are all here today. I would like to give all of you the opportunity to make your closing remarks, the final thing that you would like to say, perhaps something you've been wanting to mention and didn't really get the time, your message that you have for people. What do you want to close off with, Maria?
I would say, obviously, treat people the way you want to be treated with respect. But also, if you see something, even if it's a friend, a family member, don't feel like you're going to go against your family if you speak up. Because at the end of the day, abuse and harassment are never okay, whether it is your family doing it, whether it's your friend doing it, whether it's your friend bullying somebody else. So that's what and this is why I wanted to be here today, is really to speak about this, and that's what I leave it to. And thank you, and Trudy, for
Thank you.
having me today.
Thank you. Antonella?
Well, the main thing that is coming to mind is to kind of really emphasize that it is never your fault. Like, it is not, doesn't matter what you were wearing, it doesn't matter what you were doing. It is not your fault if someone stepped over those boundaries, if someone hurt you in some way, physical, sexual, verbal, emotional. It is always important to try and understand each other, but it is important to love and respect yourself. What we were talking about, like tuning into, imagining it happening to someone that you really care about, that is really important. But it is important to work on showing that love and care for yourself as well, because it makes a lot of sense to see, what if it was happening to my niece? But also think of why. Like, why is it I will get upset if it happens to someone I care about and not if it's happening to me? So focus on loving yourself as well. And
Because when you love yourself, you realize your worth and what you shouldn't stand for.
exactly. And I think that is one of the hardest things to do in life, unfortunately. I'm still learning as well. I think many people are. But yeah, just that it's not your fault to love yourself, respect yourself, and respect other people. Just like, if everyone just loved each other, it would be
Yeah.
a
More
better
love,
world.
less war.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Preach.
Thank you, Antonella. Thank you. Marta?
They've both hit my points, Maria especially, but I think aside from those two is don't underestimate how and I'm gonna go a bit on a different topic, but still within. Don't underestimate how fast things can escalate, even on dating sites, somebody. Because it could be, oh no, his profile is super cute, we'll be okay. If anything, my sister has my location. Yes, okay, but don't give in to what they want. Like you've never
Be
met
so
this person.
trustworthy, you know?
So you shouldn't have to go through something traumatic for you to realize what shouldn't happen to you. Tipo,
Yeah.
what weirdly enough, not weirdly enough, just dating sites especially, because now everyone like meets on dating apps, meets on Instagram, meets here, there, online, social media platforms, and then things like this happen. Like speaking for myself, and I saw it as, oh, but he looks like a nice guy. I tried to see the best in this person. No, not even the excuse of, oh, my sister just went to hospital. Nothing. They don't be so quick to see the positive side in someone, because most of the time it's, yes, that positive side is there, but there's also this. There's also the part that will traumatize you. And I'm not saying, oh, be careful of everyone. No, be careful of everyone, but don't be that.
Don't ignore the red flags.
Don't ignore the red flags, because at the end of the day, by seeing those red flags and recognizing them, that's when you can stop something. That's when you can at least get ahead of something, not to let it get worse or
Yeah.
worse.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining me here today. I am sure that this conversation is going to help people out there, and if not help other women, it's raising awareness about the realities that a lot of people face in their lives. And I just think that's so important. So thank you, all of you, for all your thoughts and for being so open with such a difficult topic. I'm honestly just so happy. Thank you.